30,000 years ago, deep inside a cave where almost no sunlight could reach, a human being pressed their hand against a wall. They blew red pigment around it. Then they pulled their hand away. And for the first time, someone left behind a message without writing a single word. I was here. We don't know their name. We don't know what they were thinking. We don't know if they understood that their mark would survive for thousands of generations. But somehow, they wanted to leave something behind. And that's where the story gets strange, because ancient humans didn't just paint their hands on cave walls. They drilled holes into skulls. They wore jewelry that had no survival purpose. They cared for injured children for weeks. They buried their dead. They decorated their bodies. They created beauty. They suffered. They healed. They loved. And they did all of this tens of thousands of years before anyone could write their story down. So what if we've been looking at ancient humans completely wrong? What if they weren't primitive versions of us, but us, without the technology? Today, we're going to look at some of the strangest things ancient humans did, and discover something surprisingly uncomfortable about ourselves. And if you want to keep uncovering the forgotten, strange, and deeply human stories hidden beneath thousands of years of history, subscribe to the channel. Because the more we discover about ancient humans, the harder it becomes to believe that they were ever truly different from us. 30,000 years ago, someone walked into a cave in Indonesia and placed their hand against the stone wall. They then blew pigment around it, ochre mixed with water, expelled through a hollow bone or directly from their mouth. The pigment settled around their fingers, their palm, their wrist. When they pulled their hand away, they had left a negative print, the absence of color where their hand had been. Archaeologists found hundreds of these handprints in caves across Indonesia, France, Spain, and Australia.
It is a total mystery.
The prints are small, many belong to children. Some show missing fingers, not from injury, but from deliberate folding. The pattern repeats: hand placed, pigment blown, hand removed, the same action, over and over, across tens of thousands of years. What makes this behavior unusual is that it served no survival purpose. It didn't feed anyone. It didn't build shelter or craft a weapon. It was purely intentional marking, a person saying, I was here, I existed. Archaeologists find no evidence these handprints were part of a larger ritual scene or narrative. They simply exist. Sometimes a single handprint. Sometimes dozens clustered together. The obvious explanation, that these were decorative or artistic, doesn't quite work. These handprints appear in the deepest parts of caves, in spaces that received almost no natural light. Ancient humans would have needed to carry torches or use processed animal fat lamps just to see what they were creating. They went to extraordinary effort to leave a mark almost no one would see. What makes this strange is the pure self-assertion of it. Not a hunting scene. Not a spiritual image. Just, I am real. I was here. But ancient humans did far stranger things to their own bodies. Around 12,000 years ago, in what is now Turkey, someone held another person's head steady while a stone tool scraped away part of their skull. Not to kill them, the bone shows signs of healing. The person survived. Archaeologists have found dozens of skulls from across Europe, Africa, and the Middle East showing the same procedure. Holes deliberately cut through the skull bone, with evidence that the patients lived afterward, sometimes for months or years. The procedure is called trepanation. The tools used were stone, later bone. The holes are remarkably precise. In some cases, multiple trepanations appear on the same skull, suggesting the individual survived and then underwent the procedure again. One Neolithic skull from France shows 4 separate holes, each showing healing. What researchers think happened is that ancient humans recognized that something was wrong inside the head. Severe headaches. Seizures. Mental disturbance. Infection. Their medical explanation is lost to us, but their response was rational within their understanding of medicine. Open the head, release whatever was causing the problem. The success rate was shockingly high. More than half of ancient trepan skulls show bone healing, meaning the person survived the surgery. Modern surgeons without anesthesia, antibiotics, or sterile conditions achieve lower success rates. What this reveals is something archaeology cannot fully recover. Ancient humans understood that the brain controlled something essential. They saw problems arising from the head and attempted a solution. Were they right about why? Probably not always. But they were asking the right questions, questions that modern neurology also asks. They were doing surgery based on observation and hypothesis. Not every strange discovery involved causing injury. In Morocco, archaeologists recently found shell beads dated to around 100,000 years ago. The shells had been deliberately shaped, perforated, and stained with pigment. They were made into jewelry. But what made the discovery remarkable is where and when this occurred, not in a coastal settlement, but in a cave far inland. More importantly, these beads appear to have been traded. Identical beads appear in sites hundreds of kilometers apart. This means that 100,000 years ago, humans were creating objects with no practical function, adorning themselves with color, and exchanging these objects across vast distances. They had invented value. They had created meaning in the form of something you could wear on your skin. What this tells us is that humans were already thinking about identity, status, and belonging. They were not simply surviving, they were decorating themselves into existence. The bead wasn't just a bead. It was a statement. Perhaps the most humanizing discovery involves something that required no tools, no ritual, no medical knowledge. Just patience. At a site in France called Les Izes, archaeologists found a child's skeleton, approximately 4 years old, dating to around 30,000 years ago. The remains showed healed fractures on both arms. The child could not have set these bones themselves. Another human being had carefully bound the child's arms and kept them immobilized while the bones healed. 4 weeks. Perhaps months. The child then died. But before death, someone cared for them through recovery. Burial sites across Europe and Asia show repeated evidence of this kind of care. Skeletons of individuals who survived severe injuries only through the intervention of others. A man with a withered arm who lived into adulthood. A woman who lost her leg but lived years afterward. A child born with a condition that would have made independent survival impossible. All of them were cared for. Federal kept alive. Their societies maintained them not because they were useful, but because they were present. These discoveries don't explain everything about ancient humans. They raise difficult questions we cannot answer. Why did some societies practice trepanation and others didn't? What did the hand stencils mean to the people who created them? Did they believe the marks held power, or were they simply asserting existence? What archaeology can tell us is this: humans were already making meaning before they had language recorded in writing. They were caring for the vulnerable. They were exploring medical solutions to suffering. They were creating identity through decoration and exchange. They were not simpler than us. They were humans living in a different world, solving the problems that world presented. The strangeness we see is not strangeness in the ancient humans. It is strangeness in us, in our assumption that only survival matters, that only the practical counts, that only the healthy deserve care. When we look at what ancient humans actually did, we're looking at what humans do when we strip away everything modern and leave only choice. And what we find is this: we make marks to prove we exist. We try to heal suffering, even without knowing how. We make beautiful things. We take care of each other. That's what ancient humans did. That's what humans do.